Violence by armed groups spreading beyond Mozambique's northernmost province of Cabo Delgado into neighbouring Niassa province. There are concerns of a possibility of the insurgency spilling into neighbouring countries. Is the SADC and South Africa particularly ready and equipped for an insurgency attack? To talk to me about this and more, I'm joined by Institute for Security Studies Board of Trustees Chair Jakkie Cilliers. Good to have you with us, Jakkie, and thank you very much for your time. Answering questions in the National Parliament, the Deputy President saying the reason why the support of the work that is being done in Cabo Delgado continues is because there is a great threat of this insurgency spilling into other parts of the region, including South Africa. How alive is that threat?
Good evening. Yes, I think it's important to also add what you haven't quoted, what the Deputy President said, in which he said that that forced migration represents a much larger risk and bigger economic challenge to SADC than and outweighing the fear of reprisals from insurgents. So what the Deputy President was doing is he was responding directly to a question from a fellow ANC member, but he was placing it in context. So he was saying that yes, there certainly is a threat. Remember that we've already seen incidents in Tanzania, but that one should not be alarmed. That the risk is in actual fact quite low that the insurgency would spread into South Africa. Doesn't mean we can rest at ease, but he indicated a limited concern about attacks in South Africa.
Yeah. Has our involvement in the stabilization efforts in Cabo Delgado really yielded any fruits, and does it justify our national interest there and involvement?
Very definitely. Northern Mozambique represents the largest foreign direct investment in Africa at the moment. And South Africa has a significant stake in that. And therefore what threatens northern Mozambique and the gas project there is of direct consequence not only to South Africa, but literally to all of southern Africa. So South Africa has got real interest, and SADC as a whole. So we have come to the aid of our neighbor, which is appropriate, so is Rwanda. And we need to watch the situation and provide whatever assistance we can. But of course, the primary responsibility for this lies with the government of Mozambique, because essentially at the heart of this problem that has developed over time is essentially a governance and a developmental problem, and that will take a long time to resolve.
Two things about that statement that the Deputy President points to. One is adequate early warning systems that are needed in the region, and two, strengthened regional cooperation. What is meant by early warning systems?
So SADC, or the Organ on Defense and Politics in SADC, nominally has an early warning unit. It is largely composed, as far as we know, of intelligence collaboration between the countries. Now, countries seldom really share intelligence. And as we know, the South African intelligence agencies across the board are in a state of crisis. So what was interesting from his remark was that he was saying that SADC needs that, because in theory it exists and has existed for several years. SADC is, on the other hand, while there certainly is a problem with the early warning and sharing of intelligence, because I think basically we don't have much to share, SADC clearly is collaborating in coming to the aid of Mozambique, and that intervention has been quite impressive in terms of response. Of course, in collaboration and supported, or actually spearheaded, by Rwanda. And Rwanda, of course, is not a SADC member. But Rwandan engagement in northern Mozambique, in actual fact, is significantly larger than the SADC engagement. I think about double the size of the SADC engagement.
Yeah. Now, of course, you've already mentioned the state of our state security agency, but we've also generally seen a little bit of what others are calling an insurrection. Of course, the debate is still out on what that actually was in July. But the question then becomes, if an insurgency would be a threat to us, will we be able to respond?
Well, we can respond, but the South African security agencies, we've spoken about intelligence. There's a huge crisis in our state security agency. As I understand it, the head of our foreign intelligence is still under suspension, and the agency is in shambles. We know that. The military has been underfunded for about 2 decades and is on its bare bones. The South African police, on the other hand, have had more than a doubling of its budget over the last 10 years, but we all know what the problems are. So the point that I'm making is across the security cluster, we face a number of challenges. You will remember that during the July unrest and in KwaZulu-Natal, there was considerable media attention placed on the lack of collaboration between the police, the military, and the fact that they got no intelligence reports. So South Africa has reason, and government has reason to be concerned, not only of what's happening in the region in northern Mozambique, but also our domestic security situation is challenging. Tomorrow, if I'm correct, we will hear when former President Zuma will go back to prison, which is what I think is very likely. And of course, there is concern that may ignite again some degree of internal instability in South Africa, although personally I don't think that will be on the same frequency or size as what happened in July. I think the security agencies, the police in particular, are alive to the challenges. But there are many issues that we need to improve on if we are going to deal both with our internal security challenges and with those in the region.
Now, SADC force in Mozambique reported to be fully operational since the deployment in July. The question is, what is the end result, or what do you expect the end result would be of this particular deployment?
So, our response to this is to deploy security military, but this is essentially a governance and a developmental problem. The problem of instability, insurgency in northern Mozambique, I suspect will be with us for a decade or more. You can only look at what has happened in West Africa, in North Africa, and elsewhere to realize that once something like this starts, it reflects deep-seated economic and developmental problems in the region and in Mozambique. It can eventually only be solved by the Mozambican government, with the assistance of friends and allies from SADC and elsewhere and the international community. But at its heart is a developmental and a governance challenge that's very difficult to deal with. Having said all those negative things, at the same time one must acknowledge that northern Mozambique, it's almost an enclave. It is surrounded by countries, Tanzania, Malawi, South Africa, Zimbabwe. This is not Afghanistan, where you have a Pakistan that supports the Taliban. And also the ethnic and religious composition of the region is quite different. So what I'm saying is that we will probably live with this problem for many years to come. But personally, I don't think it's going to spread south and westward. Yeah. It may spread back into Tanzania and Kenya, because in a sense, that's where it's come from.
I suppose at the heart of this question was the question around the money being spent, then the resources being spent. And South Africa's stated goal, according to the Deputy President, is to bring about peace and stability in the region. And so many would ask, with all the resources that we're spending there, how far are we from this peace and stability so we can take that money and spend it somewhere else where we need it in the country?
South Africa will be probably assisting Mozambique for many years to come. And the resources that we are spending are substantive. We have a military which has been underfunded for, as I've said, for almost 2 decades, and really has got very limited capacity to deliver. But having said that, I made the point that the gas development in northern Mozambique is of tremendous importance for southern Africa, indeed for Africa. It's the largest foreign direct investment in the whole of Africa. It will also benefit South Africa because all the contractors, all the building and so on that's happening onshore, much of that comes from South Africa. So we benefit from stability in northern Mozambique. But and also to reiterate that it's only the Mozambican government that can really resolve this issue through developmental and other agencies, so helping to build their security capacity, but also to provide other developmental and other assistance is in South Africa's direct national interest. But I think that pressure for improvements in governance and accountability within the government in Maputo is would probably be of the most benefit to the region and to South Africa. But that, of course, is difficult to do, given the solidarity that we see within SADC amongst its member states. But essentially, this is a long-term challenge, and this is going to be with us for many, many years to come. There's no short-term solution. The military can put a band-aid on top of the situation, help to contain it, and help to maybe deal with some of the challenges. But the military and SAMIM, the Southern African Military Intervention Force, cannot resolve this issue. They can help to contain it. Ultimately, it's up to the Mozambican government.
Jakkie Cilliers, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us, Chair of the Institute for Security Studies Board of Trustees.